I got married young, before social media was huge, and I really feel like I caught the last chopper out of Vietnam.
I saw this. Look.
Dragon Age the Veilguard apes the most superficial elements of a BioWare game, making no effort to modernize what is a now fairly dated formula, while delivering absolutely none of the writing, characterization, and imagination that made its previous games so great.
The problem is, when your game is basically half companion quest lines, if those companions aren't compelling, you have a real problem on your hands. And unfortunately, most of the quest lines related to the companions fall really flat. They come off really, really bland.
Rook? I was going to fetch some breakfast.
Peaceful down here. You could almost pretend nothing's wrong up top.
When I'm with you, it feels as if there isn't.
Sorry.
If you insist.
The writing is frankly terminal. It lacks any nuance or wit or wisdom. It cannot communicate ideas except to say them aloud to the camera. It manufactures petty, unbelievable tension because it doesn't know how to create anything more real, and it's too scared to ever be truly confronting or dark for fear that it might make the audience uncomfortable.
The romances that are tied to them, which has previously been a staple of BioWare games, also fall incredibly flat. I won't spoil them, though there's not much to spoil. I saw one post on X, which was basically somebody just saying, I feel lied to that there was a nudity toggle in the settings, and I think that that's fair.
Do I seem distracted?
I don't know. I might need to take a closer look.
Look fast.
Show that they care about their mates.
Huh. Sexy growls? Sometimes little bits of fire and love bites?
That sounds really great to me. Yes, please.
Tarala.
Tarala. That's the Canary word for mine?
Yeah. Because that's what you are. Tarala.
Every interaction between the companions feels like HR is in the room, and every interaction led by the main character, Rook, sounds like he's addressing an under-12 soccer team before a semi-final, or teaching toddlers how to properly share toys.
By contrast, Leslie Headland has sexless witches and idiotic skinny guys.
Like, these are not hot and steamy. Like, this is swampy and muggy as far as cutscenes and like romance scenes are concerned. It's just a straight fade to black for like all of them, and they're extremely underwhelming.
It's calm. I like it. Not something I'm used to, being calm. It's nice. Different, but nice.
It feels like everything...
Have something I want to say.
What's up?
You know what? Never mind. It's not important.
Say whatever's on your mind.
Some things are hard to say. Really, really hard. If I say the words, those 3 words, what if I have to unsay them later? I thought I lost you, Rook. I thought I lost part of myself too. Days went by, weeks, no word from you. Then we saw you, pulled you out, and I love you, Rook. More than I knew I could. We should get up soon. But later works too. Much, much later.
But I think Book Talk disproves Hot Rodent Summer. What is that sentence? I wasn't joking last video when I said that I was reading some SJM and others. I'm trying to figure out why these books are selling by the tens of millions, seeing huge success, yet these shows and movies with strong female leads are not.
And like, I'm not looking for Cyberpunk levels or even like Baldur's Gate 3 levels, but maybe like Witcher 3 level romance scenes or something. That would be fine. It's a fantasy RPG. Have some fun with it. Take out a unicorn and go crazy.
The way you build relationships with your companions is so woefully outdated. Drawn out quest lines completely divorced from the main plot, starring disposable villains and recycling the same settings, enemies, and bosses you find elsewhere.
They will say one of two things about me. That I stood at the Inquisitor's side, his protector and his lover. That it was meant to be. Or they will say I was led from the path of faith by the wiles of a madman.
I don't care what they say. What do you believe?
I believe you are a faithful man. I believe you are part of the Maker's plan. Beyond that, I believe only that you are capable of anything. And it frightens me. I have never known anything like it. I've been with only one other man in my life. A mage, with whom I adventured when I was still very young. He died at the Conclave. I will not let Corypheus win. I will not let him take you from me.
You can't control what will happen, Cassandra.
Perhaps, but that will not prevent me from trying.
My results are not conclusive yet, a few more to read, but so far, I've noticed a trend in the men. Book boyfriends, they're often called, and let me tell you, the guys in these books, they don't look like Yord. And they don't act like meek little Yord getting walked on by Padawan X-23 either. The guys in these books are so manly, it's almost comical. And they are enormous in all the ways that you might use that word.
Everything I saw was big. Everything was big. It was a bunch of tall men being active. They were changing light bulbs, putting shit on shelves.
Just say when. Just say, seriously? Are you serious?
Yeah, these are man's men, almost laughably stoic and tough. And if another man hurts you, ladies, his eyes will darken and he will visit violence upon them.
Barnes and Noble added a monster, enjoyer section.
The romance system feels equally antiquated, heavily reliant on the "will bang okay" button, even when it doesn't make sense for that to be an option, with no supporting systems behind it to make your romance decisions feel believable or consequential.
Alright, let me start over. Here's the thing. Being near you makes me crazy, but I can't imagine being without you. Not ever. I don't know how to say this another way. I want to spend the night with you, here, in the camp. Maybe this is too fast, I don't know, but I know what I feel.
And when I say these books are successful, perhaps you don't understand the extent. According to her website, Ms. Mass has sold over 38 million copies. Colleen Hoover has sold well over 30 million. In 2022, she outsold the Bible in America. Julia Quinn's site says she has over 20 million in the US alone. What do they write about? Romance. competent women meeting their match in the manliest of men. And then they usually do it.
Now, I'm not gonna say it. Fuck it, I'm gonna say it. How the fuck do women have any room to say men are degenerate when they have literal books at Barnes & Noble about fucking Baphomet?
His decision. Come, my love. Put the thoughts of the ritual aside and let us make this last night together one to remember.
Women might be more couth about it than we are, boys, but that milder sex is still super horny. In Mass's Court of Thorns and Roses, the main guy is Tamlin, who is gigantic and muscled, and whose two sole emotions are murderous protective rage and slightly controlled rage. The first time that the two main characters meet each other's meet, he does what Fresh and Fit and Sneeko and DJ Khaled and apparently Batman won't do, but Alf and Michael Douglas will do. So take that for what it's worth, fellas. 38 million copies.
What the hell is going on? Every single one of them it's a girl, and this weird, it's not even a dude. It's what is this? What is this? The Dragon's Bride. 5 Shades of Grey is the same crazy shit, dude? Yeah, but at least 50 Shades of Grey is a guy.
Julia Quinn doesn't write Yords either. She's the one behind the Bridgerton books. I can't show you a lot of that show. Here's an innocent scene where the two main characters are getting ice cream.
He, like this author, is still waiting on the only suitor of note.
I can't show you other parts or describe the book parts. They definitely fog up some carriage windows. Hey guys, how would you describe most of Bridgerton? Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, that's about right. And it's not just the books. Women turned into Reacher, Terminal List, and Jack Ryan, and it wasn't entirely for the plot. They wanted a zaddy. Why is there a Z?
Like, that's not, yeah, guys, this is degenerate. This is normal. This is bad. This is good.
So if Kennedy and co are trying to attract a new casual female audience, they're probably gonna need some eye candy and some romance. I don't know, like maybe, oh, what if there was like a rugged, handsome scoundrel of a man who can't be pinned down, but a tough woman with authority is his match, and he can't help but fall for her. Nah, there's no way that would ever work.
If you insist.
We should get up soon. But later works too. Much, much later.
Do I seem distracted?
I don't know. I might need to take a closer look.
Look fast.
Remind me, how did the Marvels do with the female audience again?
Crazy, but instead, it's like this was blocked by some Puritan, like, Christian middle school theater director, and it's really bizarre.
All I'm saying is I don't ever want to hear about the things that men like are disgusting. Look at this. This is crazy. And it's out in the open. It's okay, hear me out?
Well, I hope that from this slew of cut clips, you get a sense of the great confusion that currently exists within certain social circles. We have Acolyte with its rat boy and haven of lesbians. We have Veilguard and its chaste fade to black romance scenes. We have criticism of Stellar Blade and the boob gate, and simultaneously we have monsters having sex with chicks on bookstore bookshelves. I'm looking forward to playing Veilguard for myself one day when it goes on deep sale, and the reason for my decision to wait lies with the writing, which so far has been horrendous for me when I watched others play it. The fact that my previous choices in the other Dragon Age games don't matter really lowers my investment and my motivation to find out what happens next. I also find the romance scenes to be less than engaging, actually yawn-inducing, and that's what we're here to talk about today. In terms of Veilguard, some folks like Skillup and Luke Stevens, who are by no means conservative individuals, noted that Veilguard pulled its punches in the romance department, but one has to wonder why it did so. After all, if the romance industry is booming, if Sarah J. Maas and the romance crowd are raking in dough, if Barnes & Noble has a book rack encouraging women to buy Monster X female romances, why is Veilguard written the way it is? As I've noted in 2 other videos before, I think we're seeing an ongoing cultural push and pull between what I'm going to call the female woke crowd and the regular women crowd. Now, let's first get some definitions out of the way. In general, when we talk about adult entertainment, we start immediately thinking about porn. And when we talk about hardcore porn, we're talking about graphic porn that you mentally associate, with the word porn. And they're usually, very graphic depictions of sex and genitalia of both partners are shown. Although how much or how long the camera lingers on one or the other is determined for whom the porn is being filmed. Because there is a difference between porn that targets female viewers, male viewers, and many other types of sexualities. Now, hardcore porn generally, though, focuses on the physical, although there sometimes is, air quote, narrative involved. But on the other hand, softcore porn is more often linked to less nudity, less focus on graphic sex, and is considered to be sweeter or more emotion-focused, or even artistic. Commercial softcore porn may show genitalia but not aroused, and there are no close-ups of penetration. Now, if we go to the far, far end of this adult entertainment spectrum, on the softest, most cleanest end, we have the super clean rom-coms and Christian romance books, or even period romance novels, where, if anything happens, it isn't described at all. There's fade to black, and sometimes the relationship isn't even consummated unless marriage has happened. And where do video games and romance novels lie on this spectrum? Well, most of them will fall between the clean rom-coms and period romance novels and the softcore porn. Now, when it comes to hardcore porn, an industry largely dominated by the interests of men, there has always been a debate as to how proper it is for a guy to enjoy such material on a semi-regular or regular basis. A lot of religious conservatives would say it's a big no-no, but interestingly enough, second-wave feminists, led by anti-porn feminist advocates like McKinnon and Dworkin, also pushed for an anti-porn stance. In my review of Camille Paglia's book, Camille Paglia writes, "Their alliance with the reactionary anti-porn far right is no coincidence," and Paglia links McKinnon to WASP ideas and a religious background, which is complemented by Dworkin, who is more bizarre sounding by her description. And she basically links Dworkin to one of those historical women who see assault everywhere, and she calls Dworkin the girl with the eternal cold. It's some sort of kind of self-victimizing female complex. Then on page 89, she writes, They detest pornography because it symbolizes everything they don't understand and can't control about their own bodies. Current feminism, with its anti-science and social constructionist bias, never thinks about nature, hence it cannot deal with sex, which begins in the body and is energized by instinctual drives. McKinnon and Dworkin's basic error is in identifying pornography with society, which they then simplistically define as patriarchal and oppressive. In fact, pornography, which erupts into the open in periods of personal freedom, shows the dark truth about nature concealed by the artifices of civilization. It is about lust, our animal reality that will never be fully tamed by love. So Camille Paglia, being more pro-pornography, is advocating for an Amazonian feminism that embraces sex, sexual freedom, and sexuality. However, she is also a firm proponent of women learning to take care of themselves and understand the risks of such freedom. So we have, in this sense, therefore, this kind of dual approach to concepts of male and female sexuality. We have on one side a group of people believing that porn is bad, and very dangerous to both women and men. And then we have on the other side pro-porn people who are advocating for more freedom, for more sexual freedom, and more fantasy in adult entertainment. So what about women's romance books, which would fall into the same category as certain video games for men, a form of softcore adult entertainment? Well, just like video games, women's romances have also been an area of contention. Is it feeding into the patriarchy? Is the necessary presence of an alpha male going to threaten the modern female reader's lived reality? Is this affirming the male gaze or empowering women to explore sexuality on their own terms? As such, there are different perspectives on even something as simple as a romance narrative in a video game. There are some who want to cleanse every single scene of any form of sexiness, people who take the anti-porn feminist stance too far, or those who embrace more religious-based conservative lifestyles. Some want to celebrate the sexiness and want to have male and females running around naked and having sex, and these sex-positive third-wave feminists tend to focus on the empowerment that a woman might have with a man or another woman, and it can also apply to male sexuality as well. And there's a new group emerging who want to take an anti-porn stance, deliberately targeting male interest-focused entertainment while simultaneously keeping female interest-focused entertainment going. They don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in some ways, because they want to target what they perceive to be negative outcomes from the male-focused porn or adult entertainment industry, while at the same time protecting the female adult entertainment industry. And this unfortunately comes off to me like cherry picking, but hey, here we are. So therefore, it is no surprise that as products of poor education, where critical thinking and logic are absent, students who simply learn to parrot the morals they were taught at university leave with half-baked ideas about what's right and wrong. They emerge to make a change at their workplace to transform culture with the power of the word, and in the process go a step too far. They start to take away the fantasy that most basic women are also searching for. This puritanical zeal to eradicate the objectifying male gaze is in danger of also eradicating female fantasy. The romance industry is one of the last bastions of normal females' fantasy, the normal woman crowd that I spoke of before. And it too is coming under some questioning behind closed doors. Certainly, women who read these novels have never been considered to have much in the way of taste. Many people look down on women who read female written porn. Although most book reviewers pay lip service to Hoover and Moss, neither Hoover nor Moss are going to find themselves largely represented in literary courses or high art society of the modern age. Regardless of the current modern highbrow trends, though, the modern romance industry chugs along with all of its permutations because there's one thing feminism can't change, and that's what women are looking for as humans. In another book review I posted on my YouTube, I quoted Ogas and Gadam, who wrote a book about human sexuality and how humans process desire. And this book, called A Billion Wicked Thoughts, looks at various ways that male and females negotiate desire and sex. And they quoted a romance industry expert. Ogas and Gadam noted that not all romance novels have sexual content, and even erotic romance novels, books with sex as primary component, would never be mistaken, I quote, for the emotionless, graphic raunch of male-targeted erotica. So that's on page 90. So there is a distinct difference between the sex scenes that women consume and the sex scenes that men consume. They also trace a common trend in both fiction and fan fiction romances, an alpha male hero. Psychologists Mary Ann Fisher and Tammy Meredith discuss the presence of strong male images in female romances, noting that the 10 most common professions of the hero include doctor, cowboy, boss, prince, rancher, knight, surgeon, king, bodyguard, and sheriff. Quote, conspicuously absent from the list of romance heroes are blue-collar workers, bureaucrats, and traditionally feminine professions, end quote, page 95. In short, these experts note that despite women supporting feminist ideals about female equality, they do not seek out beta males for their adult female entertainment. They are seeking dominant men who answer their subconscious needs and desires. Beta males simply don't sell as well. There are some exceptions to the rule, of course, and the pairing romances for straight women do feature more effeminate men, but those men are coded as women for maximum self-insertion purposes. I've been told by one of my leftist friends that these romances become modes of safe exploration of more dominant, submissive, traditional dynamics for modern female readers. It's a really fascinating situation. So as you can see, therefore, there is a push and pull between what feminism wants for women and what ordinary women want for women. Let me tell you about the ordinary woman that I saw at a thrift shop in my town. Imagine, if you will, a dumpy, plain, overweight, older white woman pushing a cart. Behind her, her equally short, dumpy, plain, overweight, older white husband followed. He's complaining about the fact that they haven't gotten to the sci-fi section yet. She ignores him. They're in the romance book aisle, which takes up a hefty 3 to 4 full shelves, while sci-fi is relegated to 3/4 of a shelf on the other side. Her gaze narrows in on a line of books. She sticks her hands on both sides of 10 books and, without reading the backs or critiquing whether she'll enjoy the content, she just dumps them wholesale into the cart after ascertaining they are part of a series and moves on. The husband does not protest. This woman represents most women. Most women want fantasy and romance. They don't care about the male gaze or the patriarchy or something identity politics. Girls just want to have fun, as the jingle goes. I'm closer to the spectrum of ace, so I'm not judging one way or the other. I'm also not particularly championing for more sex or titties in my video game. I am very happy to go without seeing genitalia as well. Please and thank you. However, the reality is that Dragon Age Veilguard has been noted as lacking a lot of steam, and I think part of this may be due to the fact that there has been a recent shift back to more prudish sensibilities, probably brought on by uncritical would-be academics and their hangers-on rushing to the next virtue signaling trend without really thinking about what they want or what women want in general. Now, in preparing for this video, I reviewed a lot of sex scenes from the entire Dragon Age series, and I'm going to admit it. I found Dragon Age Origins to be tamer than Dragon Age Inquisition. Hear me out here. Sarah and her Inquisitor have full top nudity. Cassandra flashes her boobs. Dorian shows off his ass, and like Cullen and Iron Bull, shows off pretty much everything but their dicks. If I was going to rate the scenes of the videos by steam or maturity and the amount of naked bodies shown, I would have to say that most romances in Dragon Age Inquisition and that one scene with Zurvan from Dragon Age Origins are the most mature. On the other hand, most of the stuff in Dragon Age Origins is fairly covered in comparison. Even Morrigan, who is super smoldering hot, is wearing a bra and a thong of some kind in her interaction in her intimate scene in Dragon Age Origins. After that, I'd actually put the intimate scenes in Veilguard as showing more skin and spending more time being intimate, with Dragon Age 2 trailing last. Poor Dragon Age 2. Great romance options, but I suppose budget or time reasons or some kind of constraint simply didn't allow for anything to be shown, really. Ultimately, out of the 4 Dragon Age games, most of the romance or intimate scenes have fade to black or cutting away, with average spice being women wearing bras in bed. That's really about it. So in retrospective, Dragon Age Veilguard isn't going so far off the track in terms of prudery. It's just that the scenes are poorly written. And then I did some digging into the writers because I had a question. Why did Sarah and Cassandra and the boys have their chests out and, walking around half naked, but Josephine didn't? It turns out that Josephine in Dragon Age Inquisition was written by a certain female writer who has since remained on staff, while the male writers who had Sarah and Cassandra out and proud have since been let go or left. I've not entirely followed the whole ins and outs of the writer turnover rate at BioWare, but it's apparent to me that the writers who sexualize the female characters are gone now, and the writers who are known for their Disney writing with Josephine as far back as this post in 2016 on Fextralife, well, she's still there. And this suggests to me that certain writers with certain sensibilities remained while other more mature writers left or were moved to the fringes of narrative decision-making. Once again, I don't know why people have left or were let go. It might have simply been money. It might have been something else. But what is definitely certain is that between the writers who remained and their personal sensibilities and interests, and perhaps oversight from above, who determined which writers would remain and which writers would be let go, I think the writers' creative choices have been limited and have resulted in a very specific tone in Dragon Age Veilguard. Now compare this to Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, or Baldur's Gate 3. I checked out the writers for those studios out of curiosity, and guess what I discovered? Number 1, BioWare has less writers on staff than CDPR or Larian. And number 2, BioWare tends to more female or other genders for writers compared to CDPR and Larian. And as I mentioned just before, the writers who remained over time have sensibilities that were linked to Disney as far back as 2016. So this has been an ongoing, quote, problem, if you will, for a while now. Now, take away from that what you want, but here's my thought, okay? It's entirely possible that the lightheartedness of the writing, the sudden shifts in mood and tone in the writing, as well as the prudish sex scenes are more indicative of either rushed writing or a predetermined shift in writing, or worse, immature writing. Either way, the result is that Veilguard comes off like a Disney Channel romance, while the other Dragon Age games, while still playing it safe compared to other RPG games out there, maintains more adult tones. Is it fair to Romanticy and Book Talk to compare Veilguard to the Moss books or Hoover Tripe? I can't believe I'm saying this, but if the writers of Veilguard were attempting for the Book Talk crowd, they might win the females over who prefer softer, cleaner, and more emotional romances. But for women who want steam, Veilguard is a flop. I found it very hard not to fast forward the sex scene or romance clips in Veilguard because of the amount of mushiness present. But for some women, that's their bread and butter. However, I do think even Veilguard would fail to draw in the crowd of women who want something to get them panting. In many ways, Veilguard reminds me almost of Christian romances or those romances written by 16-year-olds on Wattpad. Moss and her crowd aren't Shakespeare. but they aren't that bad. Ultimately, I think there's a bit of a war going on in the world of women's adult entertainment. I don't know if men realize what's going on, but there's a reason why Netflix decided to sink a lot of money into K-dramas. K-dramas, for all of their recent exploration into modern women's experiences, still hold to the tried and true tropes that women are seeking. They are giving women what they want. But you have to ask, why did Netflix turn to Korea for help with making romance stories and not to Hollywood? Has something gone rotten in Hollywood when it comes to writing female romances? Clearly women want it. Moss and her crowd is giving women what they want, and they will rake in money. Veilguard, on the other hand, like Hollywood, appears to be playing it safe. And in so doing, I believe they lost a chance to bring in a larger audience of men and women looking for adult fantasy. Now, as an aside, some people might point out that RPGs don't need sex to sell well. That's true. Hogwarts Legacy is a case in point. This is because I believe the video game was based on a previously established franchise that drew in millions through the books and the movies related to J.K. Rowling's brand. It was bound to succeed on the level of Pokemon and, Mario. Dragon Age, on the other hand, has always been a more niche title, coming off of 2 disappointing games, which I enjoyed, by the way. But coming off of those 2 disappointing games, this was going to be a tough sell for them. They had to win back people. This was their chance to impress, and I just don't think Veilguard really got to the point that it needed to get to, which is a shame. I wanted it to succeed. I just hope that the writers and directors at BioWare realize that if you don't have a good story, and if you don't have good gameplay, at least have good sex. And they failed at most of these, which is a real shame. So ultimately, we have to take Dragon Age Veilguard and compare it to something like Final Fantasy XVI. After all, both games come from companies with long-standing reputations for telling good stories. Both IPs have undergone significant gameplay style changes, and recently both put forward new iterations on their age-old formulas. I haven't played either, but I've watched scenes from both, and in terms of spectacle, gameplay, and narrative flow, FF16 stands head and shoulders above Dragon Age Veilguard for me. It's more adult, more grounded, and more fantastical. It takes you to another world. On the other hand, Dragon Age Veilguard feels ham-fisted, childish, and anachronistic. It feels like a missed opportunity to say something meaningful, which was achieved in FF16. Many people didn't like the gameplay of FF16, and they felt that FF16 lacked RPG elements. How much more so does Dragon Age Veilguard fail? As Luke Stevens aptly noted, it fails as an RPG, it fails as a romance simulator, and it fails as a self-help guide. Now, this is my hot take from the sidelines, but one day when I play both, I think I will be able to elaborate more on what I've perceived so far and test for myself what these experiences are. However, I think I've seen enough to be able to say that when it comes to Dragon Age Veilguard, there is a strong sense of feeling let down because your choices don't matter. The romances don't really feel compelling. And there's just a lack of connection to what had led up to this moment, with only Solus really carrying everything on his slender shoulders. I just wanted to explore the struggle of what's going on behind the scenes in terms of female adult entertainment, fantasy, and writing, because this is a whole area that has been contested, and the discussion has been ongoing as to how women should be engaging with sex and fantasy. So it's not so simple to say that all is well within the female romance world. There is an ongoing battle. And it's starting to spill over into video games as well, which is a real shame because women want as much fantasy as men do. As Asmongold pointed out, women are just as crazy as guys are for that relationship goodness. But Veilguard appears to have failed at getting some of the basics down, unfortunately, by not being as compelling or as mature as some people might prefer. So anyway, what do you think is going on? Do you think Veilguard did a great job with the romance department? Or do you also feel like it's just not as steamy as you hoped for? Anyway, leave your comments down below. I'll see you all next time. Peace.